Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Dominic D'Angelo of I'm of OneTrueSport.com, AdFreeShows.com, and SEScoops.com. But I am here today. It is Straight Talk with the Boss, Magnum TA and Greg Gagne. Guys, how you doing? We're live.
Pretty good. Yeah, we're all still standing.
We're all still here hanging out, making it happen. But guys, yes, we're live on the One True Sport, OneTrueSportTV.com, and on FullHorsemanNetwork.com. So get your questions in. Use the super chat. That really helps us out. It helps support the show, helps get the word out more. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, tell your friends, tell your enemies, all that malarkey, because we got a lot to talk about today because people are already asking some good questions, and we're going to get to them here. But guys, how's the week been? What's new on your guys' front? Greg, you were just on Busted Open. Talk about that a little bit.
About what?
Busted Open Radio. You were just on.
I was on yesterday with Bully Ray and Tommy Dreamer, and of course a great one, David LeGrec. Did a great job. We talked about, when we were competing with McMahon or trying to get everything together with USA Wrestling and some of the big cards we had, and TA was one of the ones who actually was the main event in Comiskey Park, and I wondered why it didn't work. Why they couldn't pull it together. Well, it's just too many big egos in those promoters. And we had one promoter who was trying to find our talent in the locker room to a contract while we're out there working in the ring. So it didn't go over too good with my dad.
He wasn't pleased.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna have
the main event was spectacular that night.
Yeah. Somebody we know was in that. Well, the semi-main event, right?
I can't remember who was in it, but it was some title match, NWA title match.
Yeah.
Oh,
some newbie wannabe, who knows?
Okay.
I saw that comment. Somebody made a comment told me I was a wannabe on some deal the other day, and but we're also two grumpy old men on podcasts, according to some of the young generation.
Is that
what somebody said that about you?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they said that, and I said I resemble that remark. I don't like that.
I don't either. Grumpy. I've never known you to be grumpy.
No, I'm talking about a wannabe.
Greg, you're the grumpy one.
I am grumpy.
That's even worse. I tell you what, some of those people that call in, some of the questions they come up with, some of the remarks they make, it's just mind-boggling and irritating.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there was one of the great athletes of our time in the ring, Magnum TA, and what he did for the business, was unbelievable. And to come in and say something like that, I'd kick the kid right in the ass if he was here.
You got to laugh. You got to laugh. It's just the fact that we're still in the conversation, 40 plus years later, is just cool in and of itself. And we got a generation that's unlike anything the world has ever seen. So it's you say things, you do things, you say things just to get noticed, because it's easy just to they don't want to just jump on the bandwagon if something's good. But, I'll say something controversial, so I'll get a glimpse, a moment, make me famous kind of deal, But I think it's all kind of funny, but it's amazing how, even though things have changed so much, the things that made it great years ago still make it great today. And I watched MJF last night in the ring doing a one-man monologue basically, and he put on a clinic of what you do as a big money ball player for any organization. And there are folks within that organization that are paid a bajillion dollars, and there's folks that think they're the best thing since sliced bread. But man, that kid has got that it factor and knows how to talk and lay it all out there in such a way that it will get under your skin, because that's what you got to do. The interview's got to be something close enough to reality that it pushes buttons and grabs a nerve with someone. And I mean, no one is safe in his presence because he is laser focused. He's fantastic at what he does. I'm sorry he didn't make the move to the WWE because watching him last night, he definitely could have held center stage in that ring with that big audience and absolutely killed it. So, but he's still a young man. He's still got time to spread his wings and do whatever he wants to do. But man, I hadn't seen him in quite a while because he's been gone. But it really impressed me. He's kind of freshened his look up a little bit, and he's in the best shape he's ever been in his life. The way he looks, and it's good to see somebody that brings all those pieces to the equation that we just considered, table stakes, 30, 40 years ago. You weren't in the conversation if you couldn't speak, if you didn't look good, if you couldn't work your way around the ring and tell the stories and do all the things we talk about. And so it was refreshing to see that hasn't gone out of style. It's just the folks that can't do that well find lots of reasons to explain why it's not important.
Yeah,
absolutely. Greg, what do you think of MJF? I know we've talked about him before.
Well, you know what? When you do an interview, the way we're taught, you have to talk from the heart. And you have to believe in what you're talking about.
Right.
And he brings that all to the table. I mean, when you see him in the ring and he's doing an interview, you're getting the real MJF. I mean, you really are. And that's what sells tickets. Mm-hmm. Not trying to be somebody you're not and trying to express yourself that way, it always fails. And when you can learn how to talk from the heart, talk about through your real personality, who you really are, that's what gets over with the people. And he's getting over.
That he is.
He's talking from the heart. I mean, everything he says, you believe.
Right.
And he believes it. Otherwise,
I believed it. It was. Yeah. I mean, he was calling it like right down the middle and telling people like it was, and people that were all puffed up about what they thought they were doing well. He let them all know where they stood. And it's kind of the only thing about calling yourself the best in the world is kind of old because I mean Punk did that 10 years ago and it was he was able to pull that shtick off and that's the only piece of the whole thing that I would even remotely even say anything about. But it was also good. It really doesn't matter. But it's you got to believe you are the best if you want to be in that spot. You really do.
And you want to convey like that you have that presence, and he has that presence that like it stands out above all the rest. I think on AEW in a lot of the ways of how he handles himself, what he can say, and just the body language and charisma he brings immediately. Like them kicking it off like that was the best thing they probably could have done. Magnum and Greg, I wanted to get your perspective on this. I don't. So in the promo though, he happened to kind of disparage some of the other talent when it comes to like a big name like Okada. Kind of questioned his physique, and there were some other digs he took about Swerve, things like that. Magnum, did you take any exception to that, or how do you feel about that in the grand scheme of like, hey, you're supposed to kind of help put these guys over because then they look more legitimate?
You've got to if you don't state what other people are afraid to say, he stated observations that someone sitting on a couch would say the same thing.
Sure.
You're supposed to be a big money ball player. When you're being represented as the top tier in professional athletics, then you need to look like you're bringing all you got. Mm-hmm. I mean, granted, everybody isn't going to be chiseled physique and whatnot, and you don't have to be, but you got to look like you're the best version of yourself that you're capable of being. And I think his observations were pretty spot on because it's the old pride in your product and wanting to represent yourself, to the utmost of what that may be. And I mean, everybody's going to step their game up. The other way you shut that up is to take some of that a little bit to heart and and bring your game up to the next level.
That's it. Did you agree with that assessment too?
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, he'll bring out the best in the other ones,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and he's saying it the way he sees it and the way he believes it. And and the couch watcher out there is probably feeling the same way he does, but they don't want to say it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, I've watched their product, and you know, they have some good talent. I wouldn't say it's great talent because they haven't reached that pinnacle yet.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they're trying to be somebody that they're really not.
Mm-hmm.
That's the impression I get from watching some of them.
think,
MGF, what
yeah.
you see is what you get.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the real him that comes out when he's talking that. And, you know, they could all take a lesson from him on that. Not try to be somebody they're not.
Mm-hmm.
Be who you are. Let that inner personality really come out. That's when you make that connection with the public out there. And either they're going to like you or they're going to hate you. But either way, if you get them going either way, they're going to buy tickets.
Exactly. I think too, a big missing point of AEW is they don't have a developmental system. It's like the talent is there, and then they give them a little bit of a spotlight, and they're not consistent with them. Whereas when you look at the WWE, they have NXT, a performance center, and even before a lot of those people on NXT get on NXT, they're working behind the scenes to get better and train and everything like that. Where AEW doesn't necessarily have that. They have they have the Nightmare Factory or Dustin Rhodes' Academy, but that doesn't necessarily mean anybody's going from there to AEW immediately. They could be going somewhere else. And
right.
So I think, and so a lot of these talents that we see sometimes, it's baptism by fire. They're put right in the thick of the action, and it's sink or swim. They don't have time to screw up. They don't have time to like learn and make mistakes and, you know, not have eyes on them immediately when it happens too. So I think that's another issue as well.
You have to have that person in there that has experienced all of it and knows how to communicate it to them.
Right.
And that's where my father was really good at it. But then we had guys like Ray Stevens and Nick Bockwinkel and even Jerry Blackwell. You know, you looked at Jerry and for me, he was probably one of the best big men performers in wrestling.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, he wasn't 6'7", 280 pounds. He could move, but he could move with that big weight, and everything he did meant something. And when he talked, and he had that Southern accent, you know, that people up north, the way he told that story, they hated him. You know, but it's all those personalities. When they go back, we had great people around us to help us, and you know, really focused on that point. You know, don't try to be somebody you're not, and don't try to project that to the public because they won't buy it.
Mm-hmm.
And they've got some really good athletes down there at AEW, but they need some coaching. They really do.
Yeah.
Right now, who's ever running it, I don't know who's telling them what they should be and shouldn't be doing. But looking at it, it's like somebody does something, they come up, how were you? Oh, that was great. That was great. You know, they're not all great. And you've got to take them and set them down and say, here, do this, say that, you know, but let it come from your inner self, not trying to be somebody you're not.
Boy, you guys sound really grumpy. Let me tell you that much.
We what?
You sound really grumpy right now.
Do we?
Literally.
Well, shit, let's have some fun then. Come on.
No, I agree with you though.
Get off that subject then.
I do agree.
How did our I missed her on NXT the other night. And
yeah.
TA, you said she sold a ton of action figures. How did she look in the ring? Did you get to watch her?
Jordan.
Yeah.
Jordan, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't get to see the match. I've got it taped. I'm gonna go back and watch it.
Yeah, that's what I did. I taped it, so I gotta watch it yet.
I saw her come out in the entrance. It was an NXT TNA on her back. She's got quite the presence about her. And, there's some talk that she's going to win that NXT Women's Championship this weekend. And I wouldn't be surprised.
I think TNA has some probably good people behind the scenes. I know they do, that are helping these people and developing them. And like you said, you need that core group of people that can help develop those people.
Right.
And, I don't know, TA, maybe you know better than I do with
well, you're missing something from 30,000 feet. It's not they don't have the people; they have the people. When the guy that owns the company is happy with what's going on, it's going to keep going on like it's going on until one day he has some amigo that becomes his new best bud and changes his perspective. Then you'll see all those things. They have the capability of doing all the things we're talking about. They got the guys in the wheelhouse that know how to do all those things we're talking about, but they're doing what the owner of the company wants them to do.
Okay.
That's the end of the story. It really isn't up for any other debate, because if they weren't doing what he wanted them to do, they wouldn't be employed, and they are, and they're making a lot of money, and it's his baby. So and again, it's his money and his toy, and he can do what he wants to with it. And if he ever, like I said, if he ever has a weekend with somebody that's not afraid to speak their mind, and he finds, and he's in a good mood, and all of a sudden says, "Wow, you're right," then you'll see it change. But until then, all this talking, you might as well go talk to that that wall behind you, because it's not going to change.
I only got half a butt left here after that ass chewing.
I think you should befriend Tony Khan, and then you can bend his ear and tell him all this.
Yeah,
I couldn't do it. I don't have enough patience.
I would. Yeah.
And like I said, it's not like it would take somebody who's been on that level, like a Eric Bischoff type guy, to be able to
throw his
strategically. I'm just business now. This has nothing to do with personalities.
I'm hanging up.
Business. It takes somebody of that nature who's worked on a corporate level, a television level, to that degree, to do something like that, and it won't ever happen because of the huge personality conflict.
And Eric Bischoff.
You're setting him for so much pain, Magnum.
Well, I mean, it doesn't have anything to do with the past or personalities or nothing. It just has to do with sheer, success rates. And I listen to all the other, lots of the other podcasts. I listen to, I listen to him. I listen to, Busted Open. I listen to a lot of these different folks, and it's hard to get your head around something as large as producing that many hours of television a week. It's a monster. It's an absolute monster. I or Greg, either one, could probably help them storyboard and line one through one show through the next 6 weeks and have an ongoing storyline that would make sense. But to make that go through Monday through Saturday, and it all makes sense too, is a absolute monster. It is a monster, and that's why it takes somebody with a really great big broad view that can say strategically, if you did this, and this, and all these different places, and it can hold that consistency together, you could see some changes. But it is so big. You can't armchair quarterback this thing and poke holes through somebody's game, because I know what it was like at WCW just to create the number of hours of television they were, and how daunting it was for Dusty, just creating television. And man, 2-3 hours of television, give me a break, and multiple times a week, poof, that's just too much and fudge.
Well, one guy can do it. You need a team. You need a team to do it, really.
Well, here we got 3 of us here.
I'm just afraid to say anymore because, like I say, TA chewed my butt off.
I like
Logo just walked in and she looked at me. She said, "What happened to you?" And I said, "TA."
half his ass is missing now.
Oh, so anyway,
Hey, I dig it. This is we're feeling the fire here. It's the fighting spirit going on. Uh, I dig it.
I'm still just drinking water. I haven't even got on the good stuff yet.
Look, yeah,
Sorry,
I got a beer in the fridge. Maybe I'll grab
Trying to
that
cool
beer.
down.
Maybe I'll grab that beer in the fridge. Hey, we made history, guys. History is made.
We got somebody
First
watching
super
us.
chat. Our first super chat, Dwayne Atkinson, $9.99. Thanks so much. Magnum, I met you many moons ago in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Any good memories or matches you might remember? Thanks for sharing. I'm a huge fan of the podcast. Thanks a lot, Dwayne. Magnum, any memories of Fayetteville?
Yeah, it was amazing because we were, when we went there, it was a little small building, but like Elvis Presley performed in this building, and just the ambiance there was just crazy, and electric bunch of people. But we'd go there a lot for television tapings, and it was so it was so alive and on fire. And on the babyface side, we had a little place that was like looking out of a block out of a wall. It's how we could watch what was going on in the ring, and we used to just sit there and watch each other, because you could hear the crowd popping and going crazy, and you couldn't help but want to see what was going on if they didn't have a monitor back there. But yeah, no, it was fantastic building, great bunch of fans. Building only held maybe 2,500 people, but you felt like there was 15,000 in there. It was so loud, and they were so electric. So it was a lot of fun.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
What song did you sing for him, Elvis?
Yeah, I feel like I followed him around.
Good one.
I feel like I followed Elvis's footsteps, because I mean all the like places across Mid-South, a lot of places in like Shreveport, or where we perform. Yeah, he was in those venues, and there was like old timey guys working around the back that you were there when Elvis performed. They were still working in the venues in the building, and Flair and I broke Elvis's record in Norfolk Scope attendance record back in the mid '80s, and that was so surreal for me, because I went to see Elvis live in that building in 1976.
Wow.
And as I watched him as a kid perform, and then I'm in that building, in a this crazy sellout with Ric Flair for the world's heavyweight title, like less than 10 years later.
That's awesome. Wow. How cool is that? That's super cool.
Oh, it's crazy.
Really cool. I got to see Elvis in Vegas. One of his, it was a great show. It was a comeback show. And then they had us in the first two seats in the front row, and then Red West, one of his guys, Elvis was a big wrestling fan, and he said they came over and said, "Would you like to meet Elvis?" And I said, "Geez, I'd love to," but he had put on such a long show, and he was wore out afterwards. And they said he'd love to get Greg. I got back there and didn't get a chance to meet him. I wish I would have. In fact, on Sirius XM radio in my car, that's all I have on.
Is it?
Yeah, go dances to it while I'm driving along.
I love it.
Oh man, I love Elvis too. I think he's great.
Yeah, phenomenal entertainer.
Phenomenal. So many. I think he influenced a lot of wrestlers too. You got to believe that. I mean, not just Honky Tonk Man.
He loved wrestling.
Yeah. Oh, that's great, man. Let's see. So, guys, yes, as you saw, our first super chat ever happened. So, if you guys want to get right to the front of the line, use the super chat. It helps out the show, helps out us, and helps out One True Sport and the Full Horsemen Network. So, but yeah, if you guys use the super chat, you'll get bumped right to the top. But we do got a bunch of questions here, so let's get to it. There's a couple from last week. Let's start with this one. Magnum TA, how come WCW Saturday Night was never live? Eric Tate asked that. Do you know how come WCW Saturday Night was never live?
Because back then, television was our sales tool. That's how we got people in the buildings. And a Saturday night performance somewhere was $100,000 show typically. With a sellout building, you were looking at $80,000 to $100,000. So all those shows that were taped, on Saturday mornings to make all that, put all that together, were done in, again, early on a Saturday morning, we knocked all that out in that little bitty studio, and then we were, off jumping on a plane, flying somewhere to, to go make the real money. So, before that transition happened, television was not a place where you were going to see main event wrestling. It just wasn't. As a matter of fact, the first special on TBS on the Superstation was this event that they did in the Omni, and Dusty would not let me work on that show because it was a free show. He didn't want me to do any main event type work on anything that was on TV for free. The whole idea was if you did it, you came to the arena and you see him wrestle. So they had me like I didn't even commentate the show. I guest host the show. They had me come in riding on a motorcycle down the streets of Atlanta, and then superimposed me in a. I just came like I came through the door out of the leathers, and all of a sudden I was in a tuxedo, and I cut like 2 or 3 spots that they inserted in the show, and that's all I did. And and again, that's 1985. So it just shows you that that whole transition that took place where television became the place where you really got your entertainment value, and it was generating money rather than them having to pay money to be on television for advertising purposes. Then it became a money generator. So that whole script flipped, in that 3-4 year period of time, and Greg and I both missed out, on all those opportunities. What it could have been.
Greg, was that Vern's kind of philosophy too? Was what Dusty was doing with Magnum and stuff like that for his top stars?
Yeah,
basically same.
Yeah, once in a while. I mean, the AWA ran 2 angles a year.
Yeah,
and they carried it all the way through. And one in the fall and one just before wintertime, just before like January, and those carried it all the way through. And the arenas were full wherever we went. You gave them a couple things on TV to tease them, but that was just basically used to build up the arena programs. Mm-hmm. And you didn't give it away, and it worked. For a number of years, it worked fantastic from the 50s right up through the mid 80s until TBS and McMahon got going on it, and they've turned the whole industry around, and they've done phenomenal with it. I mean, I give McMahon credit. I mean, the WWE and the guys running it now. I mean, fantastic programs, and they're selling out everywhere they go, and they're worldwide. I mean, they've really put professional wrestling. It was always on the map, but now it's global.
It is, and I said this on Monday on one of my shows that I do, that like Raw. I watched all Raw, and 3 hours is a long time to watch wrestling, but I enjoyed it. Like I did enjoy it, and like the stories that they were spitting through and everything like that, and how all these kind of characters and personalities were converging on one another. It's just in a really good spot right now. WWE is when it comes to storytelling.
Yeah, it really is, and that's a lot of work. Boy, to put on a 3-hour show every week.
Yeah,
and have all those storylines going. I mean, it's phenomenal. It's really a great job that they do.
Hey, we're cooking fire in the chat here. We got another super chat already. $5. Thanks, B40. Does Greg have any old AWA belts, ring skirts, or pieces of old interview sets? Do you hold possession of them? I know you got
interviews. Yeah, I've got a few around.
Yeah,
they're all on the VC via what are those little VCFs? Yeah, and then I've got the US or the AWA light heavyweight championship, or not light heavyweight, the US championship, TV championship.
Yeah, people want you to put the belts on the air here at some point too.
Well, we'll show them sometime. TA, you got one, don't you?
He's got that good one, that doozy back.
Oh, I got the one in the background. I don't have any of the original belts. It is like, and it's funny, the U.S. belt that Nikita and I had the best of 7 series for has disappeared off the planet. No, that's a great mystery in life.
Really?
We shot this angle when I was working at WCW where Nikita was going to try to hit, I think, Sting with the belt, and he was going to run it into the ring post, and Dusty thought he could hit it so hard he could break the belt because they were going to retire the belt and come up with a new one. And anyway, it didn't work. Nikita did everything he could. He couldn't even put a dent in the belt. It was that Reggie Parks made that thing, and you've probably driven a Mack truck over it, and it wouldn't have broke. But anyway, it was at center stage, and where we shot the angle, and that's the last time the belt's ever been seen. And we don't know whether they accidentally got thrown away. We don't know what's happened. But in the big collector world of belts, I know the guy that owns the original silver belt that Wahoo and I fought over, but that belt has never resurfaced.
My goodness. Holy crap.
Yeah. I have a replica of it somewhere around here. But yeah, everything I've got is replicas. I've got nothing original.
Man. Well,
I've got one original, and I don't know if my sisters have Vern's or where it went, where it disappeared to, but it's not in my hands, that's for sure.
Do you know where the original AWA heavyweight belt is? Italian asks.
I don't know where it is, but it was originally, and I put this on Instagram the other day. It was originally the Police Gazette belt that was given to Vern like in 1953.
Whoa.
And then eventually he turned that into the AWA championship belt.
Oh, how about that? That's sweet.
Yeah. And I wish I could find the thing, but I don't know if my sisters have it. Nobody will speak up. So yeah, I know I don't.
Well, I'm going to pop up some of the old questions from last week before we tackle some of the new ones here. We'll do these a little one by one. Matt Karcher asks, did either of you ever interact with Gino Hernandez?
Gino?
Yeah.
I didn't have the opportunity, no.
No? How about you,
I
Matt?
did. Mm-hmm. So I did. So when I'd been in the business 6 months, and I was working for Joe Blanchard, and Gino and Tully were a heel tag team. Mm-hmm. And so I got to spend some time around him, and what a just massively talented guy Gino Hernandez was. Gino would have been, who knows what, world champion many times over had he not passed away early. But yeah, super talented guy. Kind of funny to be around. And again, when I met him, I was green. I'd been in the business 6 months, but he was a very, very talented individual.
Yeah, I know. Initially, that MJF's gotten a lot of comparisons to him in certain ways. Do you see any comparisons in between the two, him and Gino Hernandez?
Well, it's so hard to compare because I mean MJF is a real heel. He can be a real heel, mm-hmm. And Gino certainly was right in that mold. He was very comfortable in that role, liked it, yeah, and he liked playing the playboy. And I think he dated some Hollywood movie starlets back in the day, and he was certainly living the life, so to speak, way beyond where anybody his age, usually was at that time of the business. So, yeah, I could see if MJF had been in that genre in that time frame, I could see a comparison for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, good question. Jacob Dorfman from last week. Hey, Magnum, how come Harley race feud never got started?
So it was never supposed to be a feud. It was a kind of a honor thing, like a test thing. Mm-hmm. So this is when the whole conversations about the world title were stirring up. And back then, the NWA and the committee and the group, you had to be approved on a number of levels to get the nod to represent the National Wrestling Alliance. So Harley and I got to work just like one time, and we struck up a very unique friendship that lasted way past that, and way past my time in the ring, and just a super guy. But he was a man's man, tough as nails, fun to be around in the business. enjoyed. Like I said, one match with, and the one spot you like this, Greg. And so I was. He calls a spot, and he says he wanted simple little deal. Wanted me to leapfrog him, and I saw him coming off the ropes, and something in his eye, I knew that he wasn't going to duck a little bit, not an inch, not a centimeter. He was coming at me Mach 7, and he said leapfrog. And by the grace of God, somehow I managed to leapfrog him and to say white men can't jump. Well, this white man jumped that day because I had Harley Race coming at me with them eyes blazing, and I just knew I was not going to screw this up. But I will never forget it. I mean, there wasn't even a bend in his knee. It looked like he was just running stiff like.
He was non. And you talk about being tough. He was with Larry Henning. They were tag team partners in the AWA for a long time. And after a match one night, they went into this restaurant downtown Minneapolis, just on the edge. And some guys started there was 3 guys there, and there was Harley and Larry. And these 3 guys started giving him a lot of crap. And eventually Harley got up, walked over to him, and the guy stabbed him right in the side. And that damn Harley pulled that knife out, and he knocked out 2 of them, and Larry knocked out the other one.
Oh my God.
Yeah, cleaned the thing out. The police came, and Harley walked out, big gash in his side, got in the car, and Larry drove him to the hospital, and he got sewn up, and he was wrestling about 3 days later.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Yeah, he was a tough son of a B-boy.
I was fortunate enough to interview Terry Funk back in 2024 or 2020, I mean, and it was covering his autobiography that he wrote, and in the book he mentioned that Harley Race, he would name the top 2 champions of NWA was Harley Race and his brother Dory. He said that's what he labeled it as, and he was like. He's like, my brother, he gave his reasons why for his brother. And then he said, the reason I say Harley is because he would kick my ass if I didn't say that. So,
that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
well, he epitomized everything that you think of the NWA. He was the poster child for all that and then some.
Yeah. You're not going to find somebody like that again. That's for sure.
Not today. Not
today. Not today.
If you do, they're going to be locked up.
I know, right? Exactly. Next question. Paul Shaw asked Greg about going to Germany to watch Patera lift and how much he thought Patera weighed at the time. Did you go to Germany to watch Ken Patera lift there?
Yes, I did. I went to Vern. He was going to do the Olympics. Vern sponsored him, and then he was going to, come back, and Vern was going to train him, Flair, myself, Brinsell, the Iron Sheik, and Bob Ruggers. So I had a chance to go with Ken over to Munich. Now, Ken was weighing 340 pounds at the time.
Wow.
He was the first man in the world to press 500 pounds over his head. And the Russian, what was the Russian guy's name?
Vasily Alexiev.
Yes.
Well, geez, and
so Ken, busted his ass this whole time. He gets to Germany, and then about 2 nights before the lift, he runs into a German girl over there and parties with her for 2 solid nights. So now they come to the big lift. Everybody's there to watch these 2 guys. Patera, the first one to do 500 pounds over his head. So you get 3 lifts, So Ken now is hungover.
No.
Oh. So what he does is the first lift, he's going to psych the Russian out. He passes on it. So that's one miss. You get 3 misses.
He just didn't do it?
Didn't do the first lift.
What a power.
He's going to psych him out. Second lift, Patera passes. Right? So now he's got two against him. So now the weight's going up, and he hasn't warmed up. So finally the third one, now he's got to make the lift. He grabs the weights, and he loses them. and he loses the whole thing. He trained all that time, 4 years for this thing. First man to lift 500 pounds over, and I don't know what it was. It was 3 something or 4, and he's fumbled on that. So he was 3 passes, he's out and disqualified. The Russian then sets a world record. He gets over 500 pounds.
Dang it, Ken. Dang it.
He was destined to be one of the boys.
Well, then him and I traveled around Europe a little bit. We went into Czechoslovakia, which was under communist control at the time. And we stay in this hotel. And we go downstairs and we go down to, there's a bar, and then the bar was closing up because there was something going on downstairs. So let's go down there and have a couple of drinks. We go down there. The Communist Party is holding a convention.
Wow. And
somebody's talking, and Patera comes in and he starts screaming at him. You commie bastards. We're going to come over here. We're going to run you out of Czechoslovakia. And I said, are you nuts? We're going to end up in prison here. We'll never get out of here. In Czechoslovakia, we were in Prague at that time. All it was on was streetlights, and they were real dim. And there was 2 soldiers with machine guns on every corner, and they're all Russians. And this numbnuts is screaming at him. And I'm thinking, we're never going to get out of here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So the next day, we got out of Prague as quick as we could. Thank God we made it out of there. I don't think they understood him, didn't understand the English, but he was swearing at him and screaming at him. And I'm going, God almighty, Ken.
He's Ken. Pump the brakes.
They're pointing at the door and finally got him to go out.
Oh,
but, all that hard training. And then he goes over there and he's out drinking with this gal all night, 2 nights in a row. That's the true story of Ken Patera and the 1972 Olympics.
How about that? Liam Evans, he's a member on One True Sport. Thanks for joining. He said, I recently read Ken's autobiography. A brilliant read. Highly recommend. True badass. So, all right, I'll have to look into that, Liam.
I'll have to look into it, too. I wonder if he told that story. Probably left that one out.
You might have left that one out.
Yeah. But Ken turned to wrestling, and he became a heck of an athlete, a heck of a performer in the ring. I mean, he was a super athlete. I mean, 340 pounds. I think when he left the camp, he was down to about 310. And Flair came in at 297. He was with Ken working out with him, and whatever else they were taking to get that big. But
yeah,
they were big.
They were big.
And Rick ended up from 297. He was at 260 when he left the camp.
My goodness. And that was before the plane wreck? When he left?
Oh, yeah. This was training. This is.
Oh, this is okay. So, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. This when we were training.
Yeah. Oh, man. All right. We got another question here. Italian, I never heard of the ring rat. Were the ring rats in AWA, Greg?
What about them?
Were the ring rats in AWA?
What were they?
Ring rats.
No, were there any?
Were there any?
Were there ring rats in the AWA?
Yes.
And that was the perfect answer. That's all you need to say.
What was that movie where the rats all came in?
Yeah.
That's what it looked like when you went back to the hotel.
There we go. No wonder Ken Patera loved it up there.
But there were a lot of them. They were very good. They called them rats. They were nice ladies and had a lot of fun.
I'm glad I asked.
We had some very good times.
What a bunch of good gals there. Let's see here. Hey, yeah, Mike Hoop, thanks for joining. We got a new member. I think he joined our contender. So thank you, our contender tier. Guys, you can sign up for 3 different tiers real quick. It's a contender, it's workhorse, or it's the traveling champion. So take a look, onetruetv.com. To go to the join button after we're done with this show and check it. Take a look, see if it interests you. We got some good stuff cooking there. Okay, Robert, your dealer's choice. What question we got going on here? Pop something up. CB, Dom, thanks again for sharing the Terry Funk's last interview. Yes, I put that up on the channel, actually. Thank you. That it was Terry Funk's last interview. So take a look on that. Eddie Prather. Greg, do you have any good Larry Zabisco stories?
None.
0.
No, he married my sister and divorced her.
Oh, there we go. No
There
good
you go.
Larry Zabisco stories.
No, I don't have any. Larry was kind of a low, he was so into himself. His ego took over, and he was really to sit and talk. You couldn't talk to Larry.
Uh-huh.
He talked the whole time.
Yeah.
And all he talked about was Larry. That's my only Larry Zabisco story that I have.
That you have. All right. Hey, Paul Bromwell. Hey, he's one of the co-owners of One True Sport. He just said, wanted to say, love Greg and Magnum and thank them for all the great stories. Dom, we love you too. Oh, thanks. Jeez.
Oh, thank you, Paul.
How about that?
Thank you very much.
Yes. Yeah.
We got one viewer.
We got one viewer. Actually, Greg, we're over 300 viewers right now. We got
How many?
300 tune in.
Woo.
Yeah.
Woo. That's a woo.
That deserves a woo, all right. Italian, I love NXT. What does Magnum and Greg think of NXT? Magnum, let's start with you.
Of NXT, I think there is brilliant because they took what was kind of like looked at way down the road like a farm club and turned it into yet another main event brand. And it is it's fantastic brand, and it truly cultivating talent and getting them comfortable and ready to be on a bigger platform as far as performing in front of the live arenas and these big shows. I mean, Steiner's son, Bron Breakker, is like the poster child for somebody coming through a system. Great athlete, great lineage from great genes from his dad, but to come completely through that whole system systematically and now be poised to be like a meteor coming into the main event status is just a real testimony to what that whole process does, and has produced so many stars, Becky Lynch, as Ashley, on and on and on, that all came through the system, so it works. And there's a lot of us old guys that weren't sure how well it would work in the beginning because we all came from the days of the territories and this, that, and the other. But the fact of the matter is, there's a lot that you can learn being on the road, and a lot of it's not good. And when you have somebody systematically looking at ways to perfect ways to do things and show you, things to do that you can make your own, but ways to improve your skill levels, your mic skill levels and everything else, it's crazy not to take advantage of something like that. And and quite frankly, that is why they're continuing to flourish and grow as they are. So, I never thought in a million years that it would be something that would entice a Shawn Michaels to want to be there and find substance in that, because I know what it was like for me, it being in my early 20s, or my late 20s, early 30s, trying to work in that role, and where Shawn came into that role later on, but such a student of the game as he was, and able to now share that with this new generation. And I see Michael fairy dust sprinkled all over Logan Paul, and just the things that they're doing is having a bigger impact than, as great as their careers were, being able to gift so many people with your knowledge and your insight and what you're able to give is what Dusty did when he was still with us, and these guys are just carrying on. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of NXT and everything they're doing down there.
100%. Greg, didn't you go down there to the Performance Center before? Is that true? Have I seen you down there?
And I sent some people down to him. Jessica.
Yeah. No, but weren't you there? Were you a guest coach there or something like that once, or am I mistaken?
No, I think you're making a mistake there.
Okay. I thought you'd
No, but the TA said it all there. It's phenomenal, and that's, I go back to the way, Vern brought people into the sport.
Mm-hmm.
And went through his training camp and, trained 144 people, and then send them to different areas, different territories to get developed, and then bring them back. And those were his main event people. Here, what the WWE does, they create it right there, and they build their own stars through that, and putting them on TV. They get used to being on TV. They get used to the what it takes to become a professional wrestler. And with Sean down there, overseeing it all, they couldn't have anybody better than that.
Yeah. And
they've done a phenomenal job, and they've turned it in now to a TV show that's getting very good ratings.
Right. They're building up
with people that, now they're presenting people to them that once they get out of there, they're ready to go into Raw and become main eventers.
Yeah.
And that's what you want. And that's where AEW is kind of scrambling. They get talent, but they don't have that opportunity to have the right people develop them to the way they need to be developed to make that next level. If that makes any sense.
It does make sense. I think to what like Magnum was yelling at you about earlier. Was that I think
every day he yells at me. I call him up and starts yelling at me. But you're not doing anything. Yeah, but I'm doing all the work here.
There's just more structure. There's more structure in NXT. You can see there's a certain cohesiveness to what is getting across. There's a certain protocol that I think all talent is able to follow and understand, and they each develop from that, and whereas AEW, it seems a little bit more fast and loose. And then on top of it, he has the final say that isn't on top of everything. I'll from my perspective. So I think that's a little bit of a different thing. But I love NXT, and it's kind of neat because you mentioned how they're growing and getting bigger. The past 2 weeks, they've had some of their best ratings all year. These past 2 episodes.
Now they're doing arena shows.
Yeah, The Battleground is taking place. I can't remember where exactly. Robert, if you know in the chat, put in the private chat where Battleground is taking place. I know it's
phenomenal. I mean, they've really got it down. They do. And you got people that know wrestling running it. And know what they need to do in the ring, what they do out of the ring, and the people that come out of there have a respect for the business, and that's what's really important.
Oh yes. Oh dang, it's in Las Vegas. That's right. It's in the UFC Apex, so that's gonna be neat, man. I can't wait for that.
That's right,
man. That's awesome, man. Yeah.
Well, I bet with the UFC relationship with the company, we're going to see a lot of cross branding things going on, with those two groups. So that'd be pretty cool.
That's gonna be
awesome.
It
really will be.
It's only gonna make the product bigger and seem bigger, so that's the good thing about it. Darren Staley, he said, thanks, Darren, for telling Paul the super chat was broken. So that's Paul chimed in there to test out the super chat. We appreciate it anyways. Thank you, Darren, for the $4. He's going to be a member tomorrow. He says he's going to sign up tomorrow. So that's good to hear. Thank you. Here's a good super chat question. Robert, why don't you pull it up? We got a few more. I want to tackle a couple. Liam, he says, hey, Dom, just wondering if Greg or Magnum have ever been over to the UK. Have both of you been over to the UK or just?
No.
No, you haven't?
No. I was supposed to go for WCW as an agent back in 88, 89, somewhere in there. But something happened, and Grizzly Smith ended up taking my spot, and I didn't go.
Oh wow!
But yeah, I've never been. I'd like to just go over there, seeing the culture, kind of seeing what it's all about. They certainly got a unique and passionate group of wrestling fans over there, for sure.
Oh yeah, 100%.
We had a lot of them from the AWA. Horst Hoffman, Billy Robinson. They were big stars. Little different style. I never had the chance to go to England, but I did. We did wrestle in Japan, and I'm sure TA did too. That was really about the only overseas one we really got at that time. Didn't have the opportunity to go to England, and I don't know. Their style was a lot different than what our style was, and only a few people really came over from England that really made that transition into the American style of professional wrestling. Billy Robinson did a good job of it. and Horst Hoffman did a great job. Those are two that really stand out in my memory.
Did you like the British style, or was it just not?
No.
No, you didn't like it. Hey,
Honestly, well, it was different. It was it was a different pace,
mm-hmm.
and it was. I mean, I wrestled Billy a couple times in the ring,
yeah,
and you really, for it to be a good match, you had to wrestle his style.
mm-hmm.
If you tried to wrestle our style, the match wasn't very good. It was okay. It was a good match, but it wasn't, the kind where you really can get the people going. Mm-hmm. And I wrestled him about 3 or 4 different times and had okay matches, but to me, they weren't, not getting those people really involved in the personalities.
Oh, it's not conveying the story you want.
Yeah.
In the ring.
Yeah.
And I just remembered something unique. So that trip that I didn't go on, that Grizzly went over on, he met a young man named Steven Regal.
Regal.
And came back and said, "This guy's got it." And it was very shortly thereafter that he was brought in WCW and got his start, here. But he was discovered on that WCW tour.
Wow, how about that? And what a discovery he is too. Jeez, just so good with who he is as a character, persona. He's very particular. I used to produce his podcast, and he was, oh man, he's such a smart guy.
Did you really?
Yeah, used to produce his podcast as well, so, or do his social media, I guess it was, but in a way, produce, I suppose. But yeah, he's very smart. I love Steven Regal.
Wait, who else are you doing here?
Oh my gosh, I'm all over the map.
Are you really?
Yeah, I produce for Kevin Nash. Well, social media for Kevin Nash. Host RVD. Host Bill Alfonso. Host you guys. Then
are you doing social media for us?
Oh, kinda. Yeah, you're on the
one. Kind of. You're supposed to be promoting this thing.
Well, no, you're on the one.
You're the social media guy. Let's go.
We got the Four Horsemen Network.
I don't even know how to get on the social media. Otherwise, I'd be promoting the hell out of it.
We'll yeah, we're up on One True Sport. So guys, follow One TS Sport on Twitter. That's where you're going to get all this kind of stuff. You're going to see us. Well, we're not live on that one. We're live on Arn Anderson's Twitter today. But
how do you get on Twitter?
Oh, you don't want to know. You don't want to know. You don't want to know. Hey, here's a good question though, Greg. Let me pull it up. Oh, Robert's got it for us. Greg, what are your thoughts on Tiffany Stratton signing with the same agency as The Rock, Cena, and Batista? Now, Robert adds some clarification to this. He says, Tiffany signed with Paradigm Talent Agency and has said she wants to transition to Hollywood by 30. Paradigm says they want to model her career after those guys, but the same people do not all represent them. So what do you think of her signing with the talent agency? And do you think she has the ability to make that move over to Hollywood, so to speak, too?
She can do anything. She's got that attitude. She believes in herself. And, that's what it takes. First, believing in yourself. And she's got an ego, and you have to have that ego. And, she's come a long way from where I had her and where she is now today.
Yes.
But, and she did it quick. But she was smart. She'd listen. She caught on quick. She's a great athlete. She loves the limelight. So I think she'll fit right in. And I'm glad she did it.
Heck yeah. Good move.
Hope she remembers me down the road.
You're gonna get her in the Oscar speech. You'll give me.
I didn't charge her anything to train her. So Tiffany, come on, baby, take care of old daddy here a little bit.
Help out Greg a little bit.
Throw me a bone once in a while.
Right. Give us a retweet.
Yes, for sure.
How's that sound? All right.
We should get her on here one day.
We should get her on. Definitely. I agree. Robert, dealer's choice. We only got 2 more left. I see in the chat here. CB, Greg, what changes would you make if you were booking AEW? Oh boy, that's a loaded question.
That's loaded, man. I'll tell you what. First of all, I'd bring in about 4 great veterans of the ring to help out, and TA would be first.
TA would jump at the chance.
You need to bring a core of people in to really get that, everybody thinking the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like TA said earlier, if Tony would allow that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He listens to everybody. He's got some great people, great talent there to listen to. But you have to be the right person to cut them off where they need to be cut off and say, no, this is the way it's going to go. You formulate what they've told you into the story.
Right.
And their storylines are just, to me, they're so chopped up.
Mm-hmm.
They go in one direction, all of a sudden the next week they're somewhere else. And you really, to do that, to that big an operation, you need a core of really solid veterans. And I'm sure they have a few down there. They need a few more added to it. That's just my thought on it. TA, what do you think?
No, it was your question. I'm not taking your question. No.
What do you mean you're not taking my question?
Flew right over to you.
Tag team here. Jesus, I tell you what, you sure throw in the towel quick. Holy Christ!
No,
throw me right under the bus.
A monkey throwing.
God. All right.
We got one more question lined up. Jacob Dorfman. Hey, Greg. Now, we talked about Rick Martel last week. Pop it back up, Robert. Hey, Greg, do you think Rick Martel has a hard time as champ because he didn't beat Nick? So we didn't mention that he didn't beat Bockwinkel. Do you think that kind of slowed him down a little bit since he never beat Bockwinkel?
Not at all.
I don't think that was the case at all.
No, not at all.
Mm-hmm.
No. Rick is a good performer in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
Really good. And I don't want anybody to take this wrong, but there's just something just missing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what it is, because he had the looks, he could work in the ring, he got over wherever he went, but I don't know if you consider him a big money man.
Yeah.
I mean,
I thought he fit the role as a heel.
I mean, I like Rick personally. I mean, he's a great, great guy.
Mm-hmm.
He was great for the AWA, greatest champion, but you have to be able to put asses in seats.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And no, I think he was great as a heel. I think I mentioned it last week too, or if it was last week we talked about him, but that I think the language barrier, like I think a little bit of not they didn't have trouble. He could speak English, obviously, but the French kind of thing, French Canadian.
Yeah, it was tough. Yeah.
So that's always tough. Cool, guys. I think that's all. You know what? Andre the Giant is our white whale. We're never going to get to him. We're just going to keep saying it, and it's just not going to happen.
Well, that's what you told us at the beginning of the show. We're going to talk about Andre.
Yeah, right.
And I had all these stories about Andre, and now I forgot what they were.
Well, hopefully you'll remember them next week. I think we're going to get to it.
We'll see.
Yes. But guys, this has been a lot of fun. Episode, I think it's 23. Michael Jordan has been in the books. We had our first ever super chat, so thank you guys for doing that. Thank you to Darren Staley. Thank you to Paul Bromwell, one of our co-owners here. B40, and then we also had Dwayne Atkinson making history, being the first person to ever do it. So thank you so much, guys. If you guys want to participate and get right to the front of the line, you always use the super chat, but I always keep my eyes peeled for the questions in general. So. But we appreciate everybody engaging with us and asking some great questions here this week. And guys, this was a fun episode. You cracked me up, Greg. You guys both cracked me up, and I'm glad Magnum chewed you out a new axe.
Get going on that social media.
Yeah, you got it.
I'm 75. I don't know what to do on it, but I know we have to promote this program.
Oh, yeah, we're out there, man. We're out there.
TA does a great job. Dom, if you got that social media and you're telling me you've got all that hooked in and you're not plugging us, brother, the drop kicks are going to start flying and they're not that high anymore.
Oh, geez.
So picture that one.
We'll get on it. But, guys, speaking of social media, you can follow Greg at Gagne.Greg on Instagram. You can follow the Real Magnum TA at the Real Magnum TA on X. You can also follow him on Instagram at Magnum_TA on Instagram. You can follow me on Twitter at Dominic D'Angelo. Follow One True Sport on X at TS Sport. And then, hey, go to the Four Horsemen Network. You can follow that channel too on Twitter. Go at Four Horsemen Network. And yes, you will see more stuff with Gagne and Magnum on the One True Sport Network, on all our social media handles. So be on the lookout for all that stuff. Thank you to Robert DeFelice, our great producer. And what a great time this was today, guys. What a great time. So
thanks, TA.
Yep. We'll see you guys next week here on Straight Talk with the Boss. Magnum TA and Greg Gagne.
Nice job, Tom.
Thank you.